by telling us your name, company, and position?
Sure.
Yeah.
My name is John Robinson. I recently started the QA Consultancy. I'm the owner, prime consultant for that. And prior to that, I had been director QA for Home Advisor.
And I'm speaking to you today because you've used TestRail before, either in a consulting capacity or with companies that you've worked with as an employee, possibly as a test manager, I guess. Can you tell us a little bit about your how you came to hear about TestRail, and specifically what problems that you felt that TestRail was going to solve in the capacity you were using it?
Sure. So I have been involved with TestRail in either using it or working with it since 2009, I believe, when it was actually in beta form before it was officially released. And I figured it up last night. I've worked the last 6 companies I've been at, I have installed or been responsible for getting it into 5 of them. And the primary reason behind it is it takes what is typically a very complicated process and makes it simple. The hard part of coordinating test cases and test execution runs across teams, especially when some of those teams are dispersed around the world, it makes that simple. And especially in some of the later iterations here, it has made it a lot easier to really customize and tweak it for exactly what we wanted it to do. And then on another side of it is, just the automation capabilities with it. It's got a pretty good API that it beats anything else that's in the market right now for integrating with an automation platform.
Did you try out any other test tools before you ultimately settled on TestRail?
We did. At various companies, we went through various different phases of searching. We've done everything from open tests to the HP, formerly Mercury suite. I don't know what they're called these days. The Rational suite we looked into. We used TFS at one point. And it all of those were either overkill for what we were trying to do or explicitly designed to work within a certain environment that really constricted our ability to use it cross-platform. And that was something that was really important to us is because we were dispersed all around the world in various companies, it was really hard to really define that platform across the board. Because depending on the phases of a tool, one of the places we worked, part of our shop was a .NET shop and the other part of our shop was a Java shop. And so having something that could deal with both of those rather than something like TFS or OpenTest or something else, it just made it a lot simpler. And the big kicker for it was it's easy to use. That's, at the end of the day, that's really the biggest thing that matters to me is it doesn't get in the way. Automation platform. When I say that, I'm talking across the board, either from an automation standpoint, from a development standpoint, whether you're .NET or Java, whether you're working on a Mac or a Windows PC, or you're somebody that's just using plain Linux, right? All of those factors go into it, and especially when we have people across seas, we can't control what platforms they're using to work with. And having something that is primarily a web-based tool that is lightweight, simple to use, made it a lot simpler for training people up, regardless of what they've been used to using.
Were there any major obstacles that might have changed your decision to go with TestRail in the end? Not really.
There was a couple of places where they were when I got there, they were very locked into a specific way of doing testing. Yeah. And one of the things was, especially a couple versions back, there was pretty rigid in terms of how it managed the test cases and what content you could put in there and what they could be called in the phase and life cycle, et cetera. And it was really a matter of either could we make TestRail work in the fashion that they're used to working, or are we willing to kind of look at and change the method of operation that we're doing? And ultimately, we revisited the just way we were doing testing and went that route instead, which made TestRail a viable platform at that point. That's really been the only time where it's been a question mark of whether it was going to be able to do what we needed to do. And it was not so much an issue on the TestRail side as it was we were using some outdated methods, I would say, and those just needed to be revisited. So once we got past that section, it was...
Once you'd made the decision to go with TestRail, what were your experiences with it?
The experience we had at Home Advisor was we had a fairly ironed out, detailed plan of how we wanted to do testing and how we wanted to go about moving test cases around and the different phases of testing. And one of the nice things about TestRail is its customization capabilities. And we were able to take all of the things that we had defined as these are the things that we want to do with it, and TestRail was capable of doing it, either by recreating new interfaces to different test case types, to different reports, to hooking into our automation system. Everything that we wanted to do, we were able to do. And we ended up forming a team that was responsible for, we had a front-end designer that could help us with, rejiggering the front end to match what we were trying to do. And we had an automation person on the team that was responsible for hooking in with all of our automation frameworks. That it made it very simple to do that. So,
what is the thing that you like the most about TestRail?
There are two things. The primary thing is its simplicity. The interface is simple. It's clean. You don't even have to really understand testing, even to understand how the application works, which is a very different experience from some of the tools that you use. It's a very intuitive interface. That is the number one thing. And the second thing is its API and the ability to automate it. We do a lot of automation in the various teams that I've worked on, and having that capability has been huge.
Cool. So if somebody that you knew was looking for a test management tool, would you recommend TestRail to them, to that person?
That actually happened a week ago, and I did. I basically, let them tell me what they're looking for and what kind of the challenges they were, and then I said, okay, you need to go look at this company and go look at this tool because I think it will do. And literally while we were there sitting at lunch, he went and pulled it up on his phone and looked at it and he goes, yep, this is what we're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I come from an HP quality center background many years ago myself. And, yeah, I certainly think the big sort of enterprise test management tools have got a few tricks to learn in that regard.
Yeah, and I think the way the industry's moving, it's going to be one of two areas, right? You've got the enterprise areas that are going to be very slow to transition to kind of this new model, which is a lot more nimble, a lot more agile. And I know people say they do agile a lot, but it's not true agile in a lot of places. But the ones that are moving to it are tending to need something less top heavy than those enterprise type applications. They just honestly don't work in a more nimble shop because the amount of effort it takes to use them is it's too much. And TestRail doesn't take a lot of it. I mean, you can build out an entire test plan in 5 minutes, for 2 days worth of testing. That's pretty powerful, and that's not something you can do in the HP suite.
John, that's pretty mumuch it for my questions. Just before I stop recording, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'm really happy that the product has continued to grow, and I've gotten to see it kind of from the early stages on through, and I'm very, very pleased with kind of the improvements and capabilities that they keep adding in, even things that I didn't even think of as being useful or handy, when they come out and they're part of the application. That's pretty nice to see. And so it tells me that they do a pretty good job of keeping their ear to the ground in terms of the community. And that's a big deal because